As a veterinarian, as a leader in a hospital, we think about all of the immense amount of knowledge and skills that we have to gain, but it was something quite simple that was able to make such a huge impact on their lives. Like that's really beautiful. It's a nice reminder that it doesn't always have to be so complicated to have a positive impact.
No, it doesn't. And I think sometimes when people are thinking about trying to do something kind, perhaps we get a little paralyzed because we overthink it.
Yeah.
You don't have to go out and start a charity.
Yeah.
To help somebody. Even when we're dealing with people, and don't get me on the whole access to care thing, but I won't be able to help it. People come in, they have no money. I mean, these people are struggling today. They come in and I present this $800 estimate for all these things I want to do. And they're like, I can do maybe $100, $150. Well, then I'm going to do what I can for $150. I'm not going to let you walk out.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Season 1 of the Veterinary Leader Podcast, brought to you by Companion Pet Partners. I'm your host, Dr. Kate Elden, and I'm so glad you're here. At Companion, we're passionate about growing leaders, and that's what this podcast is all about. Whether you're an associate veterinarian leading your team in a busy hospital, a practice owner or medical director leading a large, diverse team, or maybe you're in industry, policy, or operations, this podcast is for you. You're going to hear real conversations with leaders across our industry who are shaping the future of veterinary care. Our hope is that these conversations challenge and inspire you in your role as a veterinary professional. Now, before we get started, I want to ask you a big favor. Please take a moment to like and subscribe to this podcast. It's a really simple way to let us know you want to hear more of these conversations, and it'll help us reach more people. All right, are you ready? Let's dive in. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of the Veterinary Leader Podcast. I am just so excited for this episode today. We've got a really special guest, and we're going to dive into really what it means to give yourself as a service member in veterinary medicine. Dr. Kwane Stewart, you are our guest this week. I'm going to go through your bio and introduce you a little bit. Your career has taken you into a variety of roles, including practicing veterinarian, chief medical officer at Vetco hospitals, county veterinarian, where you worked to reverse one of the worst euthanasia rates in the country, chief veterinary officer of American Humane. You become a trusted voice among major media outlets and companies for guidance on improving animal care standards. Today, you're the founder and president of Project Street Vet, which is a nonprofit public charity that empowers veterinary teams to deliver professional, non-judgmental medical care and support to pet families experiencing homelessness and housing vulnerability. The vision is to create a world where veterinary care is accessible to every pet family. In addition to these roles, you're also an animal advocate, media personality, and public speaker. You were awarded CNN Hero of the Year. You've also written a book called What It Takes to Save a Life, and I'm sure there's more that I'm missing. You want to add?
All that in 3 years, too, because I'm only like 29. It's amazing.
That's the best.
No, it's exhausting almost hearing that, but my 28 years as a vet have zoomed by, and I know one day I'll get to sit back and just reflect on it. The last thing that I could probably throw in is I'm now Netflix's head veterinarian, and I advise them on welfare and safety practices for their animals on film sets.
Oh, that is really awesome. I think about that as I see animals on screen and, the making sure that they're well taken care of. So that's you. That's you.
I'm one of the guys behind the scenes. Yeah, I am. I guess I'm their only vet, not their head vet, but they only have one veterinarian, and that's me. And I work across platforms, series, and feature films here, UCAN, United States, Canada, but also overseas. So it's a fairly big role, but I will say this quickly about animals in film is there was a time when animals were almost disposable props, at least considered that.
Yeah.
And American Humane, which I ran for about 7 years, it was formed nearly 80 some years ago after a horse was intentionally ridden off a cliff for a scene in a Western. The movie was Jesse James, I think it was like 1930. And they just wanted this really graphic scene of a horse just riding off to its death. The stuntman, the cowboy, bailed, and they let the horse go. And at the time, that was acceptable. And obviously, and this is where I'm going with this point, obviously we've evolved far, far from that. So nobody on a film set wants to see an animal get hurt or injured. So I'm there just to enforce that, to guide and advise. Some of it's nuanced as far as making sure that pets on set have enrichment, that their sleep-wake cycles are normal, but just some of the details, keeping them healthy.
Yeah, that's so important. I'm happy and proud as a veterinary professional that you're doing that and supporting those pets so that, we're thinking about them and keeping them safe. So we know where you are and what you're doing now. Can you tell us a little bit about where you came from and how you found yourself kind of in this position of service and the birth of Project Street Vet?
Yes, probably the best way to tell it is to just share the origin story of the Street Vet. And it came, so you mentioned I was a shelter vet. I was a shelter vet during the recession. So I decided, I don't know what came over me, but I was here practicing in Southern California and loving what I was doing. And that was my dream. I grew up in New Mexico, went to vet school in Colorado. And then day after graduation, I packed up my old junky Mustang 5.0 and I drove here to San Diego without a job. And that started my new life. And I was loving it. And after one of my dogs had found its way into a shelter, and then I went to reclaim her, I just saw these pretty horrific conditions. Yeah. And they did not have a veterinarian, and that was a problem.
Yep.
So they talked me into it, and I said, sure, I'll take the job. And 2 years into it, I was going to quit. We were euthanizing, again, you mentioned it. It was one of the worst shelters in the country. We were euthanizing during the spring. So peak season, kitten season, we were euthanizing around 50 animals by 10 a.m. every day.
Oh my gosh.
And a lot of them healthy. And I'm the one directing this very young staff, mostly young girls, to go put the needle in these animals and end their life.
Yeah.
And the burden I would take home every night was just, over time, it was just too much. So about 2 years into the job, with a heavy heart, I decided I was going to resign. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting outside of 7-Eleven. So when I go out and I do my public speaking, I call this my 7-Eleven story. And I've told it countless times now. But I was sitting outside of 7-Eleven and I was rehearsing my resignation letter to the director. Because you have to understand, I leave, they're right back where they started. And we were making some progress, as bad as it was, with me there every day, doing the spays and neuters, making sure animals were getting adopted. Yeah. We were at least holding the levee back for the water. And I walk, then they're, again, without a vet. These animals are sitting in cages. Like mine, who got hit by a car, she was sitting in a cage without any treatment or care. And that's what motivated me to come in and say, all right, I'll take the job. So I'm sitting there thinking, what am I going to tell her?
What a weight.
And I walk into 7-Eleven, I come out with my coffee, and that's my pattern every day before work. And then outside the storefront, I see an unhoused gentleman, a homeless man with his dog. And, you start doing this long enough, you diagnose things from afar. And so from 10 feet away, I could see this dog had a serious flea issue. It looked like just really bad FAD, flea allergic dermatitis. And for anyone who's owned a dog, especially in California, fleas are prevalent, and if you're not on a flea prevention, then fleas will eat your dog up. And so this dog looked like a burn victim. So no hair, skin red and bumpy on the rear, just from fleas.
Yeah.
And I got closer to the man and I introduced myself. I said, I'm Kwane, I'm a vet, and I see your dog has some sort of skin issue. And he was just desperate for care, for help. He said, yeah, she's had this problem for a while. She's miserable. I'm miserable. I don't know what to do. And I said, if you're here tomorrow, I'll return with something that should help. So I went back to the shelter that day. I did not resign. I stole a $3 flea treatment. And I went back the next morning and I treated the dog. And then I saw the same man and the same dog about a week and a half later. And she was transformed. She was already, the infection was gone. The hair was coming back. And before, she sat curled up in the corner and didn't even lift her head. And on this day, she came up and she licked my face. And the man sitting in the same spot, he looked up at me and he just said, with tears in his eyes, he said, "Thank you for not ignoring me." And I knelt down next to him, and there was this just emotional exchange. And I started to tear up, and I remember telling him, making him a quiet little pledge, "I'm going to go out and find more people like you." Mm-hmm. And that was 15 years ago. And that's when I started walking the streets, and I've been doing it since. The follow-up, the end cap to the story is I did not quit the shelter.
Yeah.
Because of that moment. I stayed for 3 more years, for a total of 5. And in that remaining 3 years, we built a brand new state-of-the-art shelter. We reduced our euthanasia rate by 75, nearly 80%. We tripled our adoption rate.
Wow.
And it still stands today as probably one of the best moments of my entire career. And I left with my head held high, and then moved to LA and started doing the film work.
Wow. That's an amazing story. And I mean, I think about it as, that moment, I mean, I teared up there, that moment where you were able to help the unhoused. You said unhoused. I want to be respectful around the language that I use. Unhoused or homeless, either one is acceptable?
I think more people these days are saying unhoused or people experiencing homelessness, which is a mouthful. To be honest, I've never come across someone where I've said homeless and they felt offended.
Okay.
I think it's more vernacular that, I don't know,
yeah.
people in big homes have started using.
Okay.
As long as you're respectful and kind to them.
As a human being. Yeah.
I don't think they care.
Yeah, you came across this, the unhoused person and, with their dog, and the treatment that was, almost just like it was life-changing for them. It wasn't something that was super technically complicated. It wasn't, difficult surgery. As a veterinarian, as a leader in a hospital, we think about all of the immense amount of knowledge and skills that we have to gain, but it was something quite simple that was able to make such a huge impact on their lives. Like that's really beautiful. It's a nice reminder that it doesn't always have to be so complicated to have a positive impact.
No, it doesn't. And I think sometimes when people are thinking about trying to do something kind, perhaps we get a little paralyzed because we overthink it.
Yeah.
You don't have to go out and start a charity
to
help somebody. I mean, this was $3, I'm about to say out of my pocket. It was $3 out of the shelter's pocket and 5 minutes of my time.
Yeah.
And it was so simple. And it not only pulled that dog out of suffering, a state of suffering, it also sort of restored this man's faith again, just that he was seen, that someone was willing to help without expectation or agenda. I will say, and I think the reason he said this to me, "Thank you for not ignoring me," is I had walked right by him probably 4 times, 5 times before.
Yeah.
I'd come in, come out, I'd seen him off to the side, and I just blew right by him. But on this day, for whatever reason, I guess the mindset I was in and, in my own little mental turmoil trying to decide what I was going to do with my job at the shelter, I saw him and decided to step over and help. And it just opened up this entire world to me.
You said something just now that it changed his life in an impactful way, but it sounds like it also really changed your life.
Well, yes.
In such an impactful way.
Yes, more ways than one, obviously. And I'm so grateful that experience happened, because who knows, I don't know. But you think you're just sort of like a leaf floating down a stream and you're going to go where you're supposed to go. I don't know that I believe that. I'm not sure that I embrace the whole destiny. And, sometimes there's like a little bit of luck or there's little things that happen.
Timing.
Yeah, timing, weird timing. And this amazing thing was presented to me, and I chased it down. And I'm better for it, the people around me, my family, in so many ways. As a veterinarian, we're always helping and giving back. But when I discovered what I thought was my real path in all this, going back to when I wanted to be a vet at 7 years of age, knowing you found it, that is the best part of all of this, is knowing I found my place in this industry, in this field.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just doing the day-to-day practice, wearing the white coat. It's actually out in the streets, just walking around, finding dogs that need help.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a coach who told me something is like, well, you want to figure out how to find job satisfaction. Just work for free, pretend like you're not, just do what you want to do, not because somebody's paying you, but because it really gives you that rewarding feeling. And it sounds like that's what happened. That's what happened to you in that moment. I'm hearing that coach having said that to me. I also am realizing, especially when you were talking about euthanasia and what it's like in a shelter situation, that is so different from my own experience working in practices, right? Where every pet is attached to an owner and there's that relationship. The shelter situation seems like it's so different. And then again, also very different from what you're doing with Project Street Vet. Can you walk us through kind of just like a day in the life of what it's like to be out there on the streets, delivering care to people, and then also how that's different from what it was like in a shelter?
I was out yesterday in Oceanside for the day, and we have this arrangement with the sheriff's department. Mm-hmm. So the sheriffs will go around different parts of the county, and I will say, I need to give them credit. They go out and they're there really trying to assist people in this situation. And I know there's law enforcement going around picking up and sweeping the homeless around. I'm hearing this really happen in LA to the point where it feels inhuman to me and wrong. But there's a group of sheriffs here that will come with me. They'll almost tag along, or I tag along with them, and will take me to some of these pockets of the city that I may not know about, where people are living and have pets and they need help. So we were out in the canyon in Oceanside walking around for 4 hours. Wow. And just finding people who are living out in a tent, like in the sticks. You would never know they were there.
Yes,
and
they've identified them, and they say, "Hey, Kwan, these people have dogs. Let's go help them out." Wow.
Yeah, they'll bring along. We had a nurse with us as well to give human assistance, and they had me and my team to help the dogs. And I think they're just to make sure everybody's safe, but two, point out where because I would never find these places. It's very different than the city, where I can just walk and someone's living behind a dumpster under a bridge. But this is out. You're
in a canyon.
There's no roadmap to know where I'm going. And so I love that. And then we were out in the city as well. But every day is a little different. And, when I do a lot of my work in Skid Row, LA, and I can park my SUV on a corner, and I'll lift the hatch, and one person, and I'm recognized now by a lot of people, one person will see who I am and come up with their dog, and I'll treat their dog. And then sometimes within 30 minutes, I have 10 people around me with their dogs. Like I was blowing a bullhorn. And they're just waiting for help, and they're courteous and grateful, and everyone gives me a hug. It is the most rewarding thing you can imagine. And that's more or less how it goes. We host clinics as well. So sometimes we will put up a pop-up clinic and advertise that through agencies in the area, and then people know to come at a certain hour and a certain day. But I just like walking. I like the surprise and the spontaneity of I have my backpack and I'm walking, and then I will turn a corner and someone living behind a dumpster, in some cases for years, in that same spot for 2 or 3 years. I was in Skid Row. There was a lady who'd been there for 3.5 years, she said. She had her dog. Her dog was having some issues. But you can imagine, if the only thing you have in the world, you've lost supportive friends and family, you're homeless, you're living out at Skid Row, and all you have is this four-legged creature. And it has some sort of issue. Maybe it's a mild thing. Maybe it's more chronic, just like the fleas. Yeah. And you're just going to bed every night so worried and concerned about how you're going to find help and who's going to give it and where you're going to get the money to treat it. And then just some guy comes around the corner wearing a stethoscope. Hey, here we go. I'm here. The surprise on their face, and then the feeling it puts inside of me, it's a little hard to describe and articulate, but two, there's just nothing I've found in my 28 years of doing anything in clinic, in a shelter, that compare.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I'm just really picturing you out there. At first, I was picturing a James Harriet with his travel bag, but now I can see you with your backpack going around, and people just showing up so grateful. I'm thinking about the bond, the bond that like families we have with our pets. And then I'm thinking about the people that you're serving, their bond with their pets might be different, it might be their only thing that they have, right? Do you see a difference in that connection between, what these animals mean to someone who's out there on the streets?
I say this all the time, the bond or relationship I observe between an unhoused person and their pet is it's just a factor of 5 or 10. It's just on a completely different level.
Yeah.
And the difference is I go to work, you go to work. If you have a dog or a cat, they're home sometimes 6, 8, 10, 12 hours. And you get some night hours, some morning hours. But these people are with their pet every moment of every day. And they speak shorthand to each other. And they always provide the best history. When I'm, this as a vet, I'm always trying to collect the most information I can to make a diagnosis. As my professor once told me in school, the diagnosis is always in the history. The answer is always in the history. So the more information I can get from the owner or the pet parent, the better job I can do. And nobody knows their dog better than these folks.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have to tell you this. You're in clinic. Someone shows up with their dog. You lift the ear. It's got this blazing red ear infection. And you ask them, well, how long has this been going on? Oh, I don't know. Maybe a day or two. No, it's not a day or two, buddy. It's more like 3 or 4 weeks. They're like, I don't know. Let me call my wife. They don't know what's going on with their own dog. That never happens in the streets. These people know their dog so well. And as far as like the heights of needing or depending or the relationship, I'll put it in a short story. I came across a lady, and the one rule I have is not to do the work after dark. That's I have a little sundowner rule. Just because I'm going through areas that are unfamiliar and people ask, well, do you ever feel unsafe? And I don't, but I don't want to be walking around through tents and tarps
you gotta be
when it's dark.
Yeah.
And someone's wondering what I'm doing, or, they have their stuff stolen all the time from other people. So the sun is just going down, and I think I probably have 30 more minutes. I was about to walk away and get in my car, and I heard a whimper. And that's sort of when I'm walking the streets, I just listen for the sounds of a dog or something barking. And then through a barrier that's a tarp or a tent, I just announce myself. I'm Kwane, I'm a vet. I hear you have a dog. If it has any needs,
How can I help?
How can I help? It's all for free. And then, most every time they'll kind of pull it back and invite me into their home. And that's how it feels, like they're inviting me into their personal space.
Yeah.
And there was this lady who had a little terrier mix, who was curled up sleeping. And she went on to tell me this story that just 2 weeks prior, she tried to take her life. And she, by her own admission, had lost complete support of friends and family because of her addiction. For the better part, I think she said 12 years. It was various things, meth and coke, and she sort of went through the list. And she said, I just can't get clean. And she said, it got to the point where I'm disappointed in myself. I'm not doing anybody any good being here. So she said, I got a pocket full of pills and I had a bottle of alcohol, and I was going to end it on this night. And she said, it was 2 weeks ago. And she said, just as she was about to swallow the pills, she looked over at her dog, and she said, I had one thought. If I go tonight, who's going to feed you in the morning?
Oh.
And she said that stopped me. And I woke up the next day and I went to rehab, and I've been clean for 2 weeks, which is longer than I've been clean in the last year and a half. And then I saw her again 6 months later, and she had been clean for the previous 6 months.
Wow.
And she had a job. She was still homeless, but she had a job, and she credited all of it to her dog.
To her dog.
She
Her
said,
dog
I
saved her life, really.
Yeah, in the most literal sense. She said, I know I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. And I wake up every day with purpose and passion to take care of him. So when you put it in a context like that, then you understand why some of these people are so loyal to their pets. And when their golden ticket, so in LA, they are creating more housing for the unhoused. And when your golden ticket, that's what they sometimes call it, their golden ticket is pulled to get housing, whether it's temporary or permanent.
Okay, yeah.
That's their big moment. That's their day.
There's probably a lot of people waiting.
A lot of people waiting.
Yeah.
But so many of these people will refuse their housing if they don't accept their dog.
Wow.
And so everyone who's out there judging the homeless and their pets, I would ask them the same question. Can you say for certain if you had housing offered and all the creature comforts that come with a warm shower and a bed when you've been sleeping outside for 2 years, would you pass that up if your dog did not receive the same invitation? And people can sit there and say, there's no way I'm separating my dog, but until you're faced with that, until you've lived outside,
in real life,
you can't say that.
Yeah, wow. I mean, the connection, that strong connection with an animal. I think as a veterinarian, and most veterinarians can relate to this, like we feel a passion for animals. That's why we get into this profession in the first place. A lot of it's sometimes trauma, and then we're connected to animals because we find safety and, that connection, that human animal bond. I think that's just amplified for this population that you're serving. It's relatable, but also just amplified, and it's their life source, right? They'll do anything for these pets, and yet they will probably want to be able to take care of them, but they're making these decisions about, do I buy food or do I spend money to take care of my animal? Or they're feeding their animal and themselves. These are real decisions that they're having to make. You said something about the connection of people inviting you into their home, to like their living space in these tents. And I do telemedicine. So I see people in their home environment a lot. It's different from what you're doing, but there is a parallel. There's something about seeing people in their own home space with their pets in their lifestyle that's just like a beautiful gift. It is a little bit of this like like ambulatory medicine. We're going to somebody's home to take care of the animals. It's a special way to deliver care. And sometimes I feel like you get to see more, right? When everybody's comfortable and in that environment. So yeah, I love that. And I love this, like that you're addressing real access to care in a tangible way. People who otherwise, you're giving care. People wouldn't have gotten it. What is it, like almost 130 million people in the U.S. have limited access to veterinary care, right? And it's just amazing. And I'm such in awe that you're going out and just walking the streets and delivering care to people in such a meaningful way. I don't want that phrase, access to care, to get so diluted that it's like something theoretical and just spotlight that you can go out and do it, So thank you for that. Does that resonate? Do you feel like, it is, you went from working in shelters where you weren't always connected with a person to the animal, and now here you are, like inside of people's living spaces.
It's quite the change. I mean, there is a part of doing shelter medicine that you kind of appreciate, because in like full disclosure, anyone who's listening, a lot of veterinarians go into this field because we don't want to or think we're not going to deal with people, when in 100%. Fact that's not the case. But if it came between human medicine and animal medicine, again, I think a lot of us would say, yeah, I chose this path because I don't even go as far to say, and I said this during my veterinary school interview, I don't really like people.
Yes. I think you're not animals. Alone there. So many people say that, but we forget, every pet is connected to a person.
But not in the shelter setting. Yes. So there was this part that I really appreciated, like animal comes in, there's no one standing back there complaining or barking or trying to reduce the estimate that I gave them. It's just they come in and I care for the dog or the cat, and it's very simple. Again, not the case in typical practice, but you get used to it. And then probably even a little more extreme is now I'm doing it, like you said, in someone's home. But the difference with these folks is because there is no money in play. Yeah. It changes the whole transaction or the whole experience. The whole service is so different. Yeah. The money part always just creates, sometimes anxiety or angst, or there's an awkwardness at times when you want to give best medicine or best care, but this person isn't in a position to pay for the estimate you just provided. But I don't have to worry about that. I go in and I do exactly what I want as much as I can. And people should know that I can't obviously treat everything out of my bag.
Yeah.
So if I'm in this woman's space and with her dog, and the dog has a tumor that needs to be removed, or it has really bad dental disease, I can do about 80% out of the bag. That's over 15 years anecdotally. The remaining 20% we send to a clinic, and we cover all the costs. So it doesn't matter what it is. I have had moments where I just happen to be in the right place at the right time. A dog's been hit by a car, and I'll send it to the nearest clinic, and $10,000 later, we pay the bill, and the dog is reunited with the owner.
And that's all through Project Street Vet.
It's all through the charity. It's all through donations.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, I was thinking about, like, you're right, that there's a rising cost of veterinary care, and it's not affordable for a lot of people, especially people who are without a home, right? And so I feel this relationship change around trust with my clients. But I guess if there's no money exchanging hands, and you're just saying, hey, I'm here to help. Like, this isn't about that. I'm just going to give you the tools. That's a different way. How do you feel about trust in your work with the people that you're working with?
The trust as currency is just granted so much easier when, again, this thing isn't financially transactional.
Yeah.
They know that I'm there purely in the interest of the dog, and I'm going to do whatever I can in that moment to help the dog. And again, I don't have this barrier of saying, oh, you can't afford that, well, then I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That's gone. And that just really changes everything, the whole dynamic. And that's why there's no complaints. There's no one sending me to the board.
Yeah.
They are just grateful that someone showed up out of the kindness of their heart to just help their dog.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. And there's just such, we have so much to give as veterinarians. I think part of that trust relationship is that there's such a knowledge gap between what a veterinarian knows about an animal when we see them and what a pet owner knows when they see them. And so, we have so much to give. And this is one thing that I also really like about telemedicine is actually just through a video call or through a text, you can really help people, right? And it doesn't necessarily take as much as you sometimes think because of all of this training and knowledge that we have. Sometimes it's just easier to help people, easier to help people than you think. I also work with a lot of new grads, and as part of our mentorship program within Companion. And so I see a lot of this desire, there's different levels of care that we can offer, right? We can look at the ear example that you were talking about, look under the ear, and we can go down to try to specifically diagnose everything that's going on there and treat it down to the nines. And there's hey, we can relieve the pain and do our best and kind of everything in between. Do you ever have people that you're working with say, oh no, we should have chosen a different antibiotic, or complain, a lot of the things that we see in the day-to-day practice of oh no, I need to do the ear swab to treat that exactly the perfect way. What goes through your head these days when you see an ear infection? Because it's probably very different than what most of us veterinarians that are in clinics are seeing. I'm curious about that.
I had a new grad. She was probably out 2 years. She was from Northern California, and she wanted to start doing her own sort of street vet chapter or team up where she lives, which I love.
Yeah.
And that's what I love most about what's happening is through this funny thing called Instagram. So my brother came along. Nobody knew what I was doing for 6 years because I didn't talk about it.
Oh, wow.
For 6 years. I started doing it in 2012 until about 2018. I didn't tell a soul.
Why do you think you didn't tell anybody? It's amazing what you're doing.
I know. And, in the beginning, I didn't want to be judged myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't want any negativity or discouragement. I didn't want someone, for example, I didn't want to be at a dinner party and someone say, what do you do in your free time? I would go around and walk the streets and I find people.
This conversation around shame is just like, is the worried about, people judging or feeling shameful about what you're doing. You are doing a beautiful, incredible thing. I'm like, that's why K-pop Demon Hunters is is all the rage right now.
K-pop Demon Hunter reference.
I did it. It's our podcast. We can talk about whatever we want. But that's part of it. Is this like, and I want to spotlight it. Is this idea of shame? Like your heart is in the right place, and animals have no shame. It's one of the things we love the most about them, right? Like I love the one-eyed, three-legged dogs, and your heart's in the right place. It's crazy to me that, to think that somebody would judge negatively for going out and helping people.
There's, as we kids like to say, there's haters, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. Someone can always perceive it as something that doesn't fall in line with their values or doesn't make sense. But yeah, I didn't want someone to say to me, why would you enable those people? They can barely take care of themselves. Why would you empower them to help their pet?
I know what you mean. Yep.
So I just, to avoid that, to avoid hearing that, I just didn't talk about it. And I would go out quietly, and I did this for 6 years until I finally shared it with my brother. I have one younger sibling who actually helps run the charity. And he does all my social media. And he came to me and said, you got to share these stories. Like, why haven't you told anybody? And so he started coming on the streets and filming some stuff. And then at the time he said, I'm going to start posting this content. I'm going to create an Instagram page for you. And I said, what's Instagram? What's an Instagram? And that's really when things took off. That was around 2018, 17. And then once word got out, getting back to what I was talking about, vets start reaching out to me across the country saying, this is cool. Can I do it where I live? And so I've been mentoring some. In fact, I had a veterinary student with me yesterday from UGA, from University of Georgia. She's a senior and she wants to start doing it either in that area, wherever she lands when she starts working. So she was out for the day, which is great. So I have these vets. So I have this vet with me. Getting back to this example.
I distracted you with K-pop Demon Hunters.
I know.
Right?
Now that's all I want to talk about since I've seen it 8 times. I have a 10-year-old daughter. So, but no, she was out in the streets with me and this dog had an ear infection. Getting back to your question about like what is gold standard medicine in a clinic versus what I'm doing. I call it essential medicine. And I lifted the ear. I'm not doing ear swabs. Sometimes I can't even examine the ear because the dog wouldn't allow it. I said to the pet parent, I'm just going to put some medicine in the ear. And I went back to my bag and I was sort of explaining to this recent grad what I'm doing. And she said, "Oh no, I don't think we can treat the ear. Like we can't even examine the ear. What if the eardrum's not intact, or what if there's a foxtail down there?" And legitimate things, by the way. Yes, it's one of the reasons we look in the ear. I want to see what's going on. I want to see the nature of the infection. I want to see if there's a foreign body like a foxtail. And yes, I want to be able to see if the eardrum is intact. Right? That's why we do what we do. However. If I don't suspect foxtails, right? There's no foxtails on the dog's body. I'm going to set that aside, right? The chances of the eardrum being ruptured are also slim to none. But if I walk away and do nothing for that dog, one thing is guaranteed. It's going to continue to suffer. So do I take that 2% risk of the eardrum, the foreign body, and not treat the dog and walk away? Or do I treat the dog? And to her, she felt it wasn't acceptable to put the medicine in the ear.
Wow. Yeah. And
I said, you'd rather, so we had a debate, a healthy debate. I said, you'd rather just walk away and not treat the dog. And she said, well, I just don't feel comfortable not knowing, I'd want to take it in. I want to sedate it. I want to look, really get a good look in the ear. And I said, no, we're not walking away without doing something for this dog. Now, for some reason it does not get better, we'll get it to a clinic and treat it. But I can tell you in my nearly 2,000 cases I have personally seen in my 15 years, this is me walking the streets one-on-one, under a traffic lamp, which becomes my office, 2,000 encounters and probably hundreds of ear infections. I have never had one go sideways. So given my history and my experience, explaining this to her, would I walk away? No. And in fact, I went as far as to tell her, I think it is negligence. I think you are dishonoring your veterinary oath if you're going to just like, I can't do anything, I'm sorry, maybe I'll see you in a week. if you walk away from this dog, seeing this dog suffer with this raging, blazing red ear infection. And after we talked it through and went to lunch, she got it. And that was the whole point of her coming with me. You said it right. You get in this glass castle and you have all these toys around you. I can do x-rays and blood work and sedate and surgery and so forth. I can't do that in the streets. I am there to provide very basic care, but in some cases, like that $3 for the flea treatment, that $3 changed that dog's life.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to keep in mind. Even when we're dealing with people, and don't get me on the whole access to care thing, but I won't be able to help it. People come in, they have no money. I mean, these people are struggling today. They come in and I present this $800 estimate for all these things I want to do. And they're like, I can do maybe $100, $150. Well, then I'm going to do what I can for $150. I'm not going to let you walk out. But you know what? A recent Gallup poll said that 52% of pet parents are declining all services and walking out the door if they can't afford it. They're doing nothing.
Yeah, I say this, I really believe this. Like sometimes people are letting perfect get in the way of progress. As we are taught perfect, and we know that, we know that you should get your otoscope and look inside the ear every time, but you can't always do that, and some help is better than no help. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Veterinary Leader Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, please like, subscribe, and share it with your network. This helps us reach more people, and thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.